Hey guys, welcome back to the Attachment Point News Roundtable. I got Ziskin here with DropIn Inc., a phenomenal video claims company, insurance recording company. I saw so many applications when Lewis came out to Broker Brews, and we got to play around with the app, right there at the Hangout. Lewis, thanks for coming on today. Looking forward to talking tech, startups, where you see your company going, what you guys can do today, and what maybe some more kind of outside the box use cases are. But thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great way to spend a Saturday morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's a passion project, So.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, actually today we've got assets deployed in, well, they live in the hurricane, tropical storm Barry area, right?
Okay.
So we actually had some video from yesterday pre-landfall. I could share a little bit of that with you, and as soon as it's safe to go out, I'm expecting later this afternoon we'll be having our first drone flights, getting some coverage for a couple customers that we have. Well, our two customers that we have, and
cool.
And we got we have the Lyft drivers out there who become drop operators for us in situations like this. So yeah, that's pretty much what my weekend's about. So this is actually a break. It's not work.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I think, and for those people who aren't familiar, DropIn, it's real-time deployment for claims, also for underwriting ahead of time, I believe, to keep track of what assets are actually there. They're not just leaning on a, supplemental form that nobody can read the handwriting on, even though it's a fillable PDF.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, one of the true things in insurance, I always say this, right? The 10 commandments, all the three religions agree that there's 10 commandments. All the fighting comes with everything after that.
Right.
And one of the commandments of insurance is the sooner you have eyes on scene, the lower the average payout, the higher the CSI and NPS scores. So it's like a super win to be able to get there for the carrier, live up to their advertising, right? Instead of turning the customer into a number at first notice of loss and hanging up the phone on them, right?
Yeah.
And it's super great for the customer because they feel like the promise has been kept and they feel engaged. I always tell people, imagine you call your insurance company and you have a claim and they do their normal process. They turn you into a number, ask you a couple of questions and tell you somebody's going to get back with you. When you go to dinner and you share that experience, right? That's when all the ideas come for, let's get new cabinets, not just new floors. I got a friend who's got a dealer. Let's take your car to him. They'll pad the claim to cover the deductible. That is a totally different experience than when you come home, you sit home at dinner. Yeah, I called the insurance company. We had a problem and they had I was able to live stream for them. They were able to loop in a plumber or an electrician right away. And potentially they're going to be out here tomorrow to fix it.
That's cool.
Or they sent a Lyft driver, a drop operator out here who already got everything, well, it's also a stop loss, right? Locks keep honest people honest. Good actors stay good when you live up to your promise to them.
No, I think it makes a ton of sense. The cool thought I had a while back, I was talking with an insurtech buddy of ours, was let's just say there's a fire in Northern California. You roll out a semi. The semi has a bunch of drones that go do the catastrophe claims. Once the claim is verified, it calls an Uber, sends it to your house, takes you to an Airbnb, puts you up all in real time. I'm forgetting parametric insurance. But with what you're doing, you don't even need to build out the infrastructure of the truck. You don't need to buy the drones. You kind of digitally enable that whole fabric to exist, without having to build it. And I think there's no reason why claims can't start to be settled in 12 hours,
Yeah.
And
I get it. All the carriers are talking about high engagement and high touch and customer engagement and retention, right?
Right.
They're driven still by processes that are exactly the opposite of that. How is that engaging your customer to turn them into a number and hang up the phone on them? A good actor's calling for help.
Yeah.
Not to get the phone hung up on them. I mean, who breaks the promise first?
You know what? It's I'm using fake names here, but it's Larry's job, who's always ran this department, who plays golf with Bill, and their kids grew up together. They've been at the company for 20 years. I've been around companies before that said they wanted to change, but purposefully kept some systems like less evolved, so that way they could keep other people in the seats that they were comfortable with, or have a less than adequate system because it's what they've been using, you know, and I just don't know if you survive that way going forward.
It's not, you know, I don't know if you survive or not. And I don't know, you know, listen, I know this, when you rely on the government to mandate a business, right? And the government says, hey, you want to drive, you have to have auto insurance.
Right.
Well, some people would look at that and say, well, we don't need to involve, we have a captive audience, right? Well, that's taking advantage.
Right.
That's not your advertising. So, you know, 50 to 70% of, as Rob puts it, right? 50 to 70% of premiums and deductibles are based on the fact that they just don't want to update their systems. And you want to tell me there's not a wink between all of them?
There are cool actors coming out, like my buddies at Clear Cover. I've got one of their mugs over here. But they're trying to make a really competitive, cool auto insurance company that's going to try to move without those traditional pieces. And, you know,
still the lemonade of auto insurance.
Yeah, exactly. I do feel like, and they've even taken on a bigger task because they're writing on their own paper. So they created an insurance company to back the layer technology, you know, so they've kind of taken it end to end. How about, how long have you guys been in the game? How long? I know that I saw something like 6 million, you know, drop raters, 200,000 streams so far, 400,000, you know, 200,000 minute stream, 400,000 streams, 56 countries. That's pretty monstrous numbers. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, Plug and Play helped us out a lot. They got us into a lot of international stuff. And believe it or not, you know, because of my background, at first everybody thought, everybody thought I was like laundering drug money in the beginning. They didn't really think I had an insurance product, right? And, you know, because of my background, I guess Europe takes that, hey, you did your time, you're doing the right thing now. We're not going to hold your past against you, right? Much better than actually my own country in the US. So we've had much more of our traction there. And the regulation there is much more reasonable, you know, and they don't have, what I've noticed with the European carriers is they don't have innovation labs like the US carriers do. The innovation labs there are actually meaningful, right? Like if you look at what Lloyd's is already doing, like we already got a contract out of Lloyd's lab, right?
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's completely different than, you know, the US. I like in the innovation teams, and I know the people on them are great, but from a business point of view, the innovation teams are like if you had a car lot and somebody came to test drive your cars every day, but they couldn't buy them and they couldn't recommend anybody to buy them, right? Well, I mean, so you end up chasing that, and that's no good.
From what I have seen, and I know that they know they need to change and it's all evolving a little bit, but it seems like long conversations and then people saying we're big enough to do it in-house and then getting stuck after a couple of years and then maybe flip it back. And then to backtrack a little bit, and don't try to get too political too often, but our situation in the US is they like building prisons more than they like building schools. So I feel like there's a vicious cycle a little bit. And I think Europe is pretty, you know, evolved, a little bit more transparent, and we're working on it. You know, I think we're getting a little better, but
I got to tell you, the in the last 6-8 months, the reception that I've received, you know, talking to American companies that I've been talking to for 3 years, has been completely different. I'd also like to say this because it's very important. I deserve to go to prison. I broke the law. I made a mistake. I was completely wrong. And taking accountability and being responsible is the number one thing. It's what I tell, you know, kids and other convicts when they come home and I speak to them. That's just the most important thing. So while it's true, I think there's an issue in America that we'd rather build prisons than schools collectively. I also don't want to act like I was some innocent caught up in some thing. It just wouldn't be right to do that. I want to make it clear again for anybody that's listening, any youngsters out there, anybody who's thinking about this, like, taking responsibility, I believe, is the key to actually having power and freedom in your life, right? Even when it's not yours, if you accept it, now you're in charge of the next step forward, and want to make sure that everybody understands that that's what I believe and how I think and how I operate.
And I agree from an entrepreneurial level too. I've had some wrinkles in my professional career where I'm like, oh, I was in this job for 3 years longer, or that owner made a weird decision, or this wasn't a fair shake. And at the end of the day, you have to push all that behind you and just say, what is in front of me? What do I want to get done? What tools do I have? 98% of the people in the world would trade spots with me in a moment. Let's dust ourselves off. You know, let's go.
Yeah.
And it's really empowering when you start.
It's funny, like sometimes I'm in traffic, right? And I start to get a little bit irritated. And then I remember, I mean, I remember being in prison, and then I'm not mad about being in traffic anymore. I mean, there's guys who just want to get on a bus, a prison bus. Imagine that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the only time they get to see any scenery, and I try to remember those things and keep it in perspective. There's people that aren't going to eat tonight, that haven't had a meal in the last 24 hours.
And we're on the edge of innovation, being grumpy that a 300-year-old industry doesn't want to change. And we're like, it's clear, Yeah, my story with InsurTech was I got licensed in 2013, got into the industry around 2017, and I was listening to all these podcasts about InsurTech, like this monster, InsurTech is coming, InsurTech is coming. And to me, it all seems so logical. This does not seem like an enemy. This seems like the progression of things. And I just saw these tools kind of coming up. I was like, wow, there's going to be a sea change in a really big industry. And I feel lucky to be around the conversation at this time. Kind of going back to past experiences, there's a data visualization startup I was a part of in like 2014, 15 that didn't work, and a lot of hours, a lot of time, some, friends, money and stuff in there, which, not on my part, but, that experience got me ready for, kind of leaning in on a lot of these projects. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think, we experienced a little bit of the snapback of the, crowdsourced model, the Uber situation, right? Where, the propaganda is it put all these taxi drivers out of work. And, that's not true. It just, they have work. It's, and some of them in some cities are doing better than ever because they benefit from people using cars less. Even if you use Uber or even if you use Lyft, I should say, 30 times a month, right? Because you don't have a car, the chances are that you're going to use a taxi a few times too. Whereas if you had a car, they wouldn't have gotten those 3 taxi rides out of it. It just wouldn't have happened, right? So, but I think a lot of people have gone, followed that, and they're worried about, they have a technology adoption resistance because they think it's job threatening. And sure, some technologies are job threatening, but you're not going to stop the future. Right. Also, most technology that we're talking about are not job threatening. They enable the person, a licensed adjuster can sit behind the computer and use DropIn software and triage and possibly adjust 10 times the amount of claims in a day that he could have if he has to sit behind a windshield and go from claim to claim, right? I mean, most claims are $3,000 or less, and 60% of those are water damage. You don't need to go out most of the time.
And then also, it's a dwindling workforce. It's an aging workforce. It's still a population that we're supposed to make whole and take care of, so it's just helping us move quicker. I always joke to the stupid Willy Wonka with Charlie, what is it, with what's his name? The more recent one where they have like the machine that replaces
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, Johnny Depp. Yeah, the machine that replaces a job, then he gets a job fixing the machine. It kind of creates new opportunities around the new ecosystem. And the other
100%.
is it kind of globalizes the opportunity too, which is really cool. A lot of the startups I've been around, they'll have like a SEAL team here, and then they're building stuff all over the world. People are making good livings,
Yeah, it's great. Like and that's kind of one of the things I'm telling people also. I was like, this is like a perfect fit, right? Like you have a cat situation like in Louisiana right now, right? Thank God it's not too bad,
Right.
Nobody's going to die. And it's, but there's going to be a lot of water damage. There's going to be a lot of damage. There's going to be a lot of people with uprooted lives that are going to have a real problem. Well, guess what? If they're who needs a little bit of money more than the locals, right? The Lyft drivers who live there, who can drive around and show you, oh, this is a total wipe. Okay, nothing to send here. Okay, there is no damage on this place, because all the fraud happens in the week it takes for the TPAs to marshal their resources in there, right? And who knows the area better than the locals? Who knows how to get around better than the locals? When you talk about drone pilots usually have exceptions so that they can fly in certain circumstances in their local area.
That's cool.
You bring a drone pilot from New York, most likely he's not going to have an exception to fly in Miami in a cat situation, right? Like we learned that in South Carolina last year. the pilots there all had flight exceptions. When we thought we weren't going to be able to fly, they all had the local exceptions that allowed them to fly, which was a great ancillary benefit, right? So they know how to get their way around when roads are closed. They have the exceptions. They're the ones who've been damaged the most and need the most money, and actually who help, the money helps the most, and actually they care the most because it's their area.
That kind of goes back to what insurance is all about too. Farmers helping farmers, people being together, make, ships, safe as they're going across the Atlantic, or if there's a loss, taking care of them. But let's fire up that video. Let's see the pre, and then we might have to follow up with the post at some point when you get some more, but let's see what's going on in Louisiana and see the
Let me share my screen with you.
Perfect.
This is, here we go.
Cool. All right. Perfect.
So this is pre-landfall from yesterday. And this is actually one of our drone pilots. You can see the wind is kicking pretty good already. We can't fly right now, but he's just holding the drone and moving it around.
So it's giving you the lay of the land. It's giving you a pre. And then also what I think is cool about that is go back to that same spot, do a post, kind of compare, contrast.
Yeah. And, we did it a little bit for marketing, because that's our thing. Hey, we're there before, during, and after, right? Nobody can get you there faster. Yeah. Nobody can get you engagement with your customers faster. I imagine the Nationwides and the Farmers of the world. All right, I'll hand it back to you now. I imagine the Nationwides and the Farmers of the world, right? Or AIG, they roll their trucks into these places. Mm-hmm. They're not really adjusting because they have their, TPAs out there. But imagine we're flying the drone over the customer's house and we three-way them in.
That's cool.
While they're sitting there in their Farmer's truck or their Nationwide truck. Look, we're over your house right now with their customer care rep, saying, look, we're on it, It's going to make people feel better. And more than likely, they're going to trust you now because they believe it. So when that lawyer ambulance chaser comes knocking on the door saying, hey, you want us to represent you against your insurance company, they're screwing you over, they're going to more than likely say, actually, they're not. They've been right on it. I couldn't have asked for anything better. Mm-hmm. And then, we have a program with Lyft where, and I really like this because it goes with the giving back thing, because we didn't want to seem like ambulance chasers where we make money from catastrophe. So Lyft has a program where in any CAT situation, whenever they see anyone in a distress situation, they will take them to safety, the local shelter or their mother's house for free, right? Well, what we do also when connectivity is knocked out, because we use satellite uplinks, so we're not connectivity dependent, right? We put one of the satellite uplinks on top of a Lyft car outside the shelter, right? And we let those people log in and call their family, log into the uplink and call their family and tell them they're okay. It's great because Satellite Phone Store to San Diego, we get an unlimited data package. And then we let them watch Netflix at night or whatever it is they want to do, or HBO or whatever it is, and it's great because we don't need it during the day we're flying. So at night we let those people, and when you see people call their parents and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm safe and had no other way to do it. Yeah. Who cares if we made any money? That's just a super cool thing on its own. Yeah. You think that the carriers would want to be involved with stuff like that?
Is there, and I'm putting on my just InsurTech buddy conversation hat. Could you get to use cases on the peripheral? I won't name names of what project, but there's one thing we're working on where we want to get the people who aren't performing or the underperformers or the new entrants, and we kind of ignore the meat for now because we know they're not going to want to change how the meat's doing. But I wonder if you could find, markets that struggle to get claims adjusters. Hey, give us 5 states. Hey, give us, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people take it that way. That's not really my style. I see I want to attack this head on. Look, you're relying on the government and the law to force this marketplace. There's a way to have a higher customer satisfaction, a higher net promoter score, a higher engagement, and a lower average payout. If that means changing your process, you're obligated to change it.
Yeah, no, totally.
I mean, that's how I look at it, you know? I mean, and it's such a win-win. The only people that don't win is the TPAs,
right,
who make money for sending the body out.
Yeah.
They want to charge you $600 for something you can do for $100.
Right.
Or
right.
in the cat situation, they want to charge you $3,000 for something you can do for $300.
Oh yeah, no, those guys, and I'll say people have worked and evolved in a way that has made sense for them. I'm sure they see it as a threat. It kind of reminds me of like the household moving guys. I used to be moving in logistics, but during the summertime, like they would charge astronomical rates, you know, like when it was peak season, whatever else, there's always leverage, you know, when the capacity is low, you know. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. But those guys would get kind of interesting and like difficult a little bit, and not calling anybody difficult, but those guys would get kind of like prima donna sometimes, and things had to be perfect.
Yeah, you know, they lip service, they all advertise on their sites, customer first, this, that, the other thing. But you know what? The truth is that they're not customer first. They're them first, and they will protect their margins in any way they can, as any business should, except when you're dealing with a collective mandated by law business that all of us Americans or people, world citizens, have to buy this product. You don't get to treat it like that.
Are there any TPAs that you've been able to work with? Would any of them bring you in to leverage your technology and kind of be not a middleman?
We're talking to a couple of them, but I can tell there's some within even the biggest TPAs. There's some within that recognize that this is an opportunity to have a lower average payout, a higher net promoter score, which will translate to more business with more carriers and actually lower their reserve requirements, which is what all the C-suite and all the carriers want, so they can invest more money and make more money and have bigger bonuses, right? But then there's other ones who are, like you said, they just, you know, we're kick-ass, take-name fucking cowboys from 80 years ago, right? Who are like, they're actually not kicking ass and taking names. They're, you know, they're being exclusive, not inclusive. They're trying to protect their little ass.
Well, you know, I love the fact that it's 50 states, it's multiple regions, it's millions of people. And I think it's about finding those right first partners that kind of tier into the second. And a lot of the times it doesn't feel like it's a perfect first partner. You know, the first people you get to work with are usually, you know, I'm going through this with my own little brokerage, working with my buddy. I get the oddball scenarios right now. I get the weirdest deals thrown at me, the stuff that nobody else wants to work on. And that's where you start, you know, and then you kind of earn your way up the food chain. Yeah. So hopefully, you know, chase down some of those smarter.
Yeah. So I like to attack that head on and make them, you know, I don't want to spend 5 years in a sales cycle with someone. I don't want to spend 3 years in a sales cycle with someone. I don't want to spend a year, you know, hey, is this for you? You got an internal conflict. Okay. I'm going to bring that to a boil and you guys decide what your move is, you know, because I'm not going to keep spending. I'm not going to be patronized that DropIn's not going to be patronized. We do other stuff, you know, we do news stuff. We do all kinds of other stuff. Like, and the truth is where we're having success is with the carriers directly who are now starting to realize that, you know, they're getting burnt by the TPAs handling their FNOL. You know, the TPAs have an interest. They benefit from leakage. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, no, you got to look at the most base core motive of why somebody's acting the way they are. You know, you can look at the surface, the conversation all day long, but you really just try to reduce stuff. I want to take one last kind of like hard right. So the other stuff, the new stuff, when I saw what you're doing, I thought real estate for, you know, appraisals for brokers, you know, I thought that was the thing that really stood out to me. Then you don't have to have the agents driving all over. If you have a national client that wants to, you know, invest in Texas for Newport Beach or Florida for Newport, you know, you could send out an operator, get a full view of the building.
We had a couple EB5 companies out of China use it like that, right? But mostly like the real estate cases here are, you know, getting the agents or the agencies, they're just going to use FaceTime because they don't have a GPS coordinate requirement. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're good.
They don't have a GPS coordinate requirement. They don't have a archiving requirement.
Oh, okay.
You know, so they just use FaceTime. They're not, you know, and they're not worried. Like an insurance company has to be worried about iOS, Android. We have to have something that works with both. You know, if you're a real estate agent and your customer has an Android phone and you have an iPhone, okay, you'll go use Google Hangouts, right? You can use FaceTime.
Okay.
an insurance company can't bounce around. They have to have one system that works, right? And they do need GPS coordinates, and they do need recording archive, and they do need to be able to take pictures that are better resolution than a screenshot. And they do need date and time and data and metadata and stuff like that. And then, you know, when you're talking about drones or even the camera phones now with the latest generation that's come out, the photo resolution is so good and the pixels are so, there's so many of them that the stuff that you can do with it after the fact on the analytics side, you know, with the roofs, you know, they're able to take these videos and these photos and determine, you know, hail damage, new versus old, right? Like, it's just amazing.
It's kind of crazy, but yeah, I'm 34. I took a photography class in high school, like full on darkroom, everything else. But yeah, 32 millimeters, 3.2 megapixel. This thing's got like 8 or 9, maybe 10. I don't even know. It's insane what we have in our pockets now. But yeah, let's kind of get close to wrapping this up. Any words of wisdom to me as a earlier entrepreneurs helping out on a few things who kind of, I think I tend to, you can tell, like operate around the edges. I don't want to say like pussyfoot a little bit with the tiger behind me. I should be going harder. But any advice on going after projects, thinking big, pushing the
envelope? I was hoping you were going to give me some advice, bro. You've been in this game longer than me. You know, listen, all I can say is that even when something makes perfect sense, you have to be careful because it's not going to make sense to somebody who's an incumbent. And even if it's not directly job threatening, if they think that the extension of it becomes job threatening, you might think you have an ally, but really they're just brain raping you because they see you as an adversary, right? And I think, you know, I look forward, I don't look backward. I'm not a big NDA guy. I'm not worried about people stealing. I'm not worried about what the next guy is doing because I look forward, I'm constantly moving forward. But part of that is also making sure you don't waste time with someone who you think is an ally that really wants to do something, who's actually your adversary and sees you as a threat, you know? And because the one thing all of us, whether rich or poor, black, white, green, Jewish, Asian, Buddhist, from the moon, from Mars, whatever, we got 24 hours in a day.
Yeah, sure.
That's all we got, right? And so if that's being taken up with stuff that's not advancing, you know, what it is we want to advance, then actually the people who are in our way are winning.
Yeah.
Just by taking the time, right? So that's why my approach is to, okay, let's head on this. If there's something here, cool. If not, cool. I'm not going to waste time with my CRM every fucking 30 days. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to have my people do it.
One of the more successful brokerages I worked at, the owner, he's like, I just want a yes or no. He's like, I don't care. He's like, we just have to realize, like, do they want the deal? They don't want the deal. Let's go. And
yeah, because, you know, you got to spend time on those or following up new opportunities rather than trying to dig ones out of the trash. You know, it's just, it's a better close ratio when new stuff than recycled.
My only 2 cents to flip back at is when you remind people the purpose of the industry, I think it calls them out. I haven't been able to be at the higher level kind of C-suite meetings with carriers or anything, but I feel like you can kind of bring people back to that, you know, North Star of why we're in it. What's the point of it? You know, people helping people, making people whole, getting people right, you know, especially in the property casualty side, you know, and I
think, you know, listen, there's a public persona that everybody plays since social media has come out and the 24-hour news cycle and this and that. And people, yes, they will say those things in public, but when they really make business decisions, those happen in private. And those, listen, we're all the same. The biological imperative is self-preservation to procreate. We will all, you know, listen, I'm not trying to say I'm any better than anybody else. Put to the task whether I'm going to give up my food for somebody else to eat. Well, it depends how much of my food and how badly they need to eat, right?
Fair. Yeah.
If we're being honest, I'm not just always going to say, here you go.
Yeah, no, that's 100% fair. You caught me on something. I was thinking, it's an interesting game you got to watch. I'm excited about what we're doing. I always say, like, you know, if it's a war, the people who embrace technology or fight unconventionally usually win. So I think over time, you know, this is all going to flesh out.
Over time, and, you know, listen, it's funny because the insurance industry is talking all this blockchain, all this data, wearables, telematics, everything, right? What they don't realize is all this technology is going to make them unnecessary because the blockchain can hold a central thing. Hey, this is your lifestyle. This is what you do. This is what you owe for your insurance policy today. Once you have total data and you take the risk out of it, no one needs the carrier anymore.
I didn't think about it to that extent. I always look at blockchain as commercial insurance. These like certificates, proofs of insurance and all that are pretty silly at this point. You know, there should be a place you could look. But
yeah,
I don't want
to. You start adding a wearable, you start adding telematics from the car, you start adding GPS from the phone. Okay, well, insurance, these IoT and all these other things, right? Insurance wants to take their risk out of it. Well, that's why they got to make their profit, is because they're the ones taking the risk.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
risk.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
There's no longer risk, why does the world need you?
Yeah. No, definitely.
We are just all assigned our list. This is your lifestyle. You skydive. We saw you driving.
I saw that. Yeah.
We heard you this, that, all this stuff, right? Okay, cool, amazing. This is what you owe this month in premium.
Yeah. No, totally. That'd be covered.
For the collective.
So I feel bad. I gotta let you run. I feel like
No worries,
I saw that you have a 3.5-year-old too, or you have a little kiddo. You know, can't steal too much of
She's almost 6.
What? That's cool.
Yeah, she's playing video games now.
That's funny. But yeah, let's catch up before too long. I'll run up to LA. And this has got me kind of chewing on a few things I'll keep thinking through. If there's anybody
cool, my man. Hey, great to talk to you. Great to see you again.
See you too, brother. We'll catch you soon.
Have a good weekend.
You too, bud. Thanks.